When Tom Bower released Betrayal and revealed that Princess Catherine had identified Meghan Markle as untrustworthy within months of her joining the royal family, most people dismissed it as palace gossip. The media was still swooning over the Fab Four. Magazine covers promised a new era for the monarchy. Fashion editors gushed about coordinated outfits and sisterly bonds. The narrative seemed set in stone, and anyone who questioned it risked being labeled bitter, jealous, or worse. But Catherine saw something the rest of us missed entirely. Think back to 2017 and 2018. The press could not get enough of Meghan Markle. She was going to modernize the monarchy, bring diversity to the institution, change how royals connected with the public. Every article painted her as this breath of fresh air sweeping through stuffy, old traditions. Harry looked happier than he had in years. The engagement photos radiated joy. Even the most cynical royal watchers allowed themselves a moment of optimism. Behind the palace walls, however, a completely different story was unfolding. According to Bower's meticulously researched account, Catherine's instincts kicked in almost immediately. She watched, she observed, and she grew deeply concerned about what she witnessed. This was not paranoia from a woman threatened by a newcomer. This was discernment from someone who understood the institution she had spent years learning to serve. The contrast between public perception and private reality could not have been more stark. While photographers captured smiling walkabouts and coordinated appearances, Catherine was quietly raising concerns that would take the rest of the world years to understand. She clocked something fundamental about Meghan's character that escaped journalists, commentators, and even members of her own family. Looking back now with everything we know, Catherine's early assessment appears almost prophetic. The Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the book, the endless stream of accusations and grievances, every single development has vindicated what she sensed from the very beginning. So, the question becomes unavoidable. What exactly did Catherine see that took everyone else so long to recognize? The official narrative pushed by palace press offices and amplified by eager media outlets painted a picture of instant sisterhood. Meghan and Catherine were supposedly bonding over shopping trips and coffee dates. Their matching outfits at public events suggested coordination and friendship. Royal correspondents breathlessly reported on this exciting new active two modern women bringing fresh energy to an ancient institution. That narrative was, to put it bluntly, complete fiction. Tom Bower's reporting pulls back the curtain on what was actually happening during those early months. His sources paint a picture so different from the public relations version that it feels like reading about two entirely separate realities. According to Bower, Meghan's undisguised disdain for the palace hierarchy had aroused Catherine's distrust almost from the start. Catherine did not hide her own suspicions about what she was witnessing. Read that again. Undisguised disdain. Meghan was not even trying to mask her contempt for the way things worked within the royal family. She arrived with an attitude that suggested the institution should adapt to her rather than the other way around. And Catherine, who had spent nearly a decade learning protocol and earning her place, recognized this immediately for what it was. The curtsy issue became an early flashpoint that revealed everything about Meghan's mindset. Royal protocol requires family members to curtsy to senior royals. It is not optional. It is not negotiable. It is a fundamental expression of respect for the hierarchy that makes the monarchy function. Meghan's unwillingness to show this deference to Catherine was not, as some suggested, about modernizing outdated traditions. It was about ego, pure and simple. Meghan seemed to believe that her own talent and popularity, her celebrity status from American television, somehow proved her superiority over someone who would one day be queen. She appeared genuinely confused about why she should defer to Catherine at all. This attitude set the tone for everything that followed. Protocol existed for everyone else, not for someone as special as Meghan Markle. The surface image of harmony required enormous effort to maintain. Palace staff worked overtime to create photo opportunities that suggested closeness. Clothing choices were coordinated to imply consultation and friendship. But beneath that carefully constructed facade, the reality grew more concerning by the day. Catherine recognized that she was dealing with someone who fundamentally misunderstood or simply rejected the basic principles that held the institution together. Bauer dropped a bombshell quote that crystallizes exactly how Meghan viewed her sister-in-law. According to his sources, Meghan regarded Catherine as an untalented prude who ought to show the respect she, Meghan, deserved. Let that music sink in for a moment. Here was someone who had been part of the royal family for mere months, looking at the future queen and seeing not a senior royal worthy of deference, but someone beneath her own level. The arrogance embedded in that assessment is absolutely staggering. Catherine had spent nearly a decade preparing for her role. She studied protocol. She learned the unwritten rules. She built relationships with staff and family members. She endured brutal press coverage and emerged with her dignity intact. She understood that joining the royal family meant serving something larger than yourself. Meghan apparently looked at all of that and saw an untalented prude. One detail from Bauer's account reveals just how much pressure Meghan's presence created. Catherine reportedly hired Virginia Chadwick Healy, a former Vogue editor and stylist, to help update her look during this period. Some interpreted this as Catherine feeling threatened by Meghan's fashion sense. But consider the alternative explanation. Catherine found herself constantly compared to someone who treated every public appearance as a personal photo shoot, and she needed professional help navigating the intensified scrutiny. The styling decision speaks to how destabilizing Meghan's approach was to everyone around her. Normal royal engagements became opportunities for Meghan to showcase herself. Events meant to highlight causes or communities transformed into platforms for personal branding. Catherine, who had always approached public duties with appropriate restraint, suddenly looked understated by comparison. The rules of engagement had shifted without anyone's consent. Perhaps most alarming was what palace insiders came to believe about Meghan's self-perception. Some even came to believe that Meghan saw herself as a more fitting future queen than Catherine. Think about the audacity required to arrive in an institution with centuries of history, marry the spare rather than the heir, and still believe yourself more qualified for the top job than someone who had been preparing for it since her early 20s. This was not ambition. Ambition can be healthy and properly channeled. This was delusion, operating at a level that made normal interaction nearly impossible. How do you build a working relationship with someone who secretly believes they should have your future role? How do you trust someone who views your position as something that rightfully belongs to them? Both William and Catherine reached the same conclusion about Meghan, and they reached it remarkably quickly. According to Bauer's account, both evidently saw Meghan as a threat rather than an ally. They understood what they were dealing with even as the rest of the world remained enchanted by the fairy tale narrative. The Cambridge assessment of the situation factored in their deep knowledge of Harry's vulnerabilities. They knew about his damaged youth, the confusion brought by drink and illicit substances, the years of therapy following Diana's death, and his repeated inability to cement balanced relationships with women. Harry was susceptible in ways that made him a perfect target for someone with Meghan's apparent agenda. Bauer writes that while Meghan's certainty of purpose had seduced Harry, her talents had alarmed his brother and Catherine. That word choice matters. Seduce suggests someone being drawn in against their better judgment. Alarmed indicates recognition of danger. William and Catherine saw what was happening to Harry and understood they could do little to stop it once the relationship gained momentum. They attempted intervention. Bauer describes a reconciliation meeting at the Cambridge home during the period right after the honeymoon. The two couples sat down to address their differences, to find common ground, to establish a working relationship that could function for years to come. History has proven definitively that this effort failed spectacularly. What Catherine and William understood, perhaps better than anyone, was that Meghan could not accept the fundamental nature of her position within the family. She was not reconciled to what was deemed her destiny in London. She had married the younger brother of the future king. Her role was to support the institution, not compete with those who would lead it. But support and service appeared to be concepts foreign to her understanding of how this should work. The Cambridges believed, correctly as it turned out, that Meghan would never make peace with the hierarchy she had married into. Every indication suggested she viewed the structure as something to be exploited rather than honored. Bauer's reporting includes perhaps the most revealing detail about Meghan's mindset during those early years. According to his sources, she lamented Harry's unlikely chances of one day being king. She also regretted the possibility that she would never be queen. Pause and consider what this reveals about her motivations. Meghan did not join the royal family to serve the crown or support the institution. She did not marry Harry because she loved him and wanted to build a life together, regardless of titles or position. She apparently viewed the marriage at least partially as a path to ultimate power, and she was frustrated when she realized that path was effectively blocked by the accident of Harry's birth order. The fundamental misunderstanding driving her behavior becomes crystal clear through this lens. Meghan believed her task was to compete with Catherine rather than support her. She could not accept that in the royal hierarchy, some positions outrank others permanently. No amount of personal ambition or celebrity status could change the fact that William was born first, and Catherine would therefore be queen consort one day. This created an impossible act of Catherine extended gestures of friendship and inclusion. Meghan apparently interpreted these as insufficient recognition of her own importance. Catherine followed protocol and expected others to do the same. Meghan viewed protocol as an obstacle to her personal advancement. Catherine served the institution as she had been taught. Meghan seemed to believe the institution should serve her ambitions. The Cambridge assessment shared privately during those early months held that Meghan was not reconciled to what was deemed her destiny in London. They recognized that someone fundamentally opposed to their position in life would never become a genuine partner in royal work. The best they could hope for was peaceful coexistence, and even that seemed increasingly unlikely as tensions mounted. Looking at everything that has transpired since, the Cambridge's early concerns appear understated, if anything. They worried about competition and disruption. What they got was full-scale war declared from a Montecito mansion, with their family's most private moments weaponized for content and their reputations attacked before a global audience. When Meghan and Harry sat down with Oprah Winfrey in March of 2021, they delivered what Catherine would come to view as the ultimate betrayal. Speaking to OK magazine, a source claimed that the Princess of Wales saw the interview as exactly that, the ultimate betrayal, and that she can never forgive the Duchess for what transpired. The interview contained multiple attacks that landed directly on Catherine. The claim that Catherine made Meghan cry during a disagreement over flower girl dresses reversed the actual events. The suggestion that concerns about Archie's skin color came from somewhere within the family implicated everyone, including Catherine, in racism. The overall portrait of a cold and unwelcoming institution painted Catherine as part of the problem rather than someone who had extended genuine friendship. Catherine's early instincts proved devastatingly correct. Everything she sensed about Meghan during those first months, the ego, the contempt for hierarchy, the willingness to tear down anyone who stood in her way, manifested in that single interview more clearly than anyone could have predicted. The woman who could not bring herself to curtsy to the future queen had no problem publicly humiliating her before tens of millions of viewers. The source speaking to OK magazine emphasized something important about Catherine's response. This was not grudge-holding or pettiness. This was self-preservation. Catherine recognized that anything shared with Meghan could become ammunition. Private family matters could transform into talking points. Genuine attempts at connection could be reframed as slights or attacks. The only safe approach was complete separation. What makes the betrayal particularly painful is that Catherine, by all accounts, genuinely tried to welcome Meghan into the family. She offered advice. She made time for relationship building. She extended the same grace she had been shown when she first entered royal life. And all of that generosity was repaid with public accusations designed to destroy her reputation. The Oprah interview confirmed that Catherine's wariness was never paranoia. It was pattern recognition. She saw who Meghan was before the rest of the world caught on, and she tried to protect herself and her family. The fact that she was ultimately unable to prevent the damage does not diminish the accuracy of her early assessment. The patterns of behavior Catherine identified early have only become more pronounced over time. Every public appearance Meghan makes now reveals the same fundamental orientation towards self-promotion over service, personal gain over institutional loyalty. Take the Australia wellness retreat disaster as a perfect example. Fans paid approximately $3,000 for what was billed as the ultimate Meghan Stock Girls weekend. They expected meaningful time with the Duchess, yoga sessions, dinner conversations, the kind of intimate access that would justify such an extraordinary price tag. What they received was approximately 30 minutes of Meghan's presence before she disappeared to her next engagement. Front desk complaints began almost immediately. According to reports, people felt misled. They had shelled out thousands for a girls' weekend with Meghan, not a brief appearance. Followed by awkward small talk with strangers. One source described attendees as absolutely furious, noting that their friend had paid all that money and was promised a whole weekend full of fun, food, drinks, and activities. The reality delivered nothing close to those expectations. The monetization of sick children represents perhaps the most troubling pattern. During the Australian visit, Meghan posed with young cancer patients at a hospital the late Queen had previously visited. Within moments of those photos circulating online, her outfit became available for purchase through an AI fashion app in which she holds an investment stake. Every piece of clothing, every accessory, shoppable with affiliate links generating commissions for the Duchess. She visited Bondi Beach, the site of a horrific terror attack, to pay respects to victims, noble in theory, grotesque in execution. Because within minutes that outfit, too, appeared online with purchase links attached. The approximate $7,000 ensemble worn to honor the dead became another sales opportunity. When backlash mounted, the listing was quietly removed, but the intent had already been exposed. Contrast this approach with how Catherine handled her own cancer journey. Dignity, privacy, zero monetization. Catherine announced her diagnosis only after speculation forced her hand. She shared minimal details. She asked for space. She returned to public life when her health permitted without ever attempting to profit from her illness or use it for personal branding. The difference in character could not be more obvious. One woman views every moment, including visits to cancer patients and terror victims, as a potential revenue stream. The other woman faced cancer herself and asked only for privacy and grace. Catherine's early concerns about Meghan's fundamental values have been vindicated in ways that extend far beyond palace politics. Catherine was not alone in detecting problems with Meghan's character. This is the latest from Robert Hardman. Now, you know Robert Hardman. He is very much the royal family's go-to reporter, columnist for Daily Mail. Very nice man. Very, very nice man. Don't have a negative word to say about him as a person, but all I'm saying is he plays it very safe because he gets all of that access to the British royal family. Robert Hardman, one of the most well-connected royal reporters in Britain, has confirmed that those close to Queen Elizabeth II detected narcissistic tendencies in the Duchess. Coming from someone with Hardman's access and reputation for careful reporting, this confirmation carries enormous weight. Hardman described the evolution of the Queen's feelings about Harry and Meghan with painful clarity. The carefully chosen patronages given to Meghan, selected with genuine thought about what platforms would work well for her, were first embraced by the couple and then simply torn up. The initial reaction from those around the Queen was bafflement. Then came frustration. Finally, those closest to Her Majesty felt she had probably been let down by both of them. The Queen's staff developed coping mechanisms for dealing with Harry's behavior during those final years. According to reports, she would avoid phone calls from her grandson because they left her distressed. He would shout down the phone about security demands and family conflicts, expecting his grandmother to clean up messes of his own making. Someone would need to be present when these calls occurred because of how upsetting they became. The Netflix documentary represented perhaps the cruelest element of the Sussex strategy. Harry and Meghan filmed their series while the Queen was still alive. They expected her to watch herself mocked, to see her life's work, the Commonwealth, denigrated by so-called experts assembled for the purpose. They anticipated that Elizabeth II would witness Meghan curtsying sarcastically and the institution she had served for 70 years as racist and outdated. Only divine mercy spared the Queen from experiencing the full force of what her grandson and his wife had prepared. She passed before the documentary aired, before the book dropped, before the cumulative weight of their betrayal became fully apparent. Those closest to her believe she would have been devastated by what ultimately emerged. The pattern of disregard for the Queen extended to the very name chosen for her great-granddaughter. Lilibet was Elizabeth's private family nickname, something precious and personal. Harry and Meghan appropriated it without genuine consultation, then positioned themselves to potentially trademark it for commercial purposes. Even in naming their child, the extraction of value from the royal family took priority over respect for the woman who had shown them considerable generosity. Former members of Harry and Meghan's staff have begun speaking more openly about their experiences, and the picture they paint aligns perfectly with what Catherine detected years ago. They call themselves the Sussex Survivors Club, a darkly humorous name that speaks to the trauma of working for the couple. Tom Sykes obtained exclusive comments from these former staffers following the Australian tour, and their descriptions are absolutely damning. One source described Meghan as literally a workplace psychopath, smiling to the public on one side of her face and glowering at you on the secret side. The woman treats anyone she has power over as totally disposable, this person continued. You are just treated like a tradesman who is there to fix the toilet. The death stare caught on camera during an Australian event provided visual confirmation of behavior staff had described for years. Meghan's chief of staff, Sarah Latham, approached during a walkabout, and Meghan shot her a look of pure venom, quickly resetting her expression. The moment lasted only seconds, but cameras captured it, and the footage went viral. This incident validated something former employees had tried to explain. Meghan operates with what one source called a behind-the-back approach. She delivers withering looks when she believes no one important is watching. If confronted, she denies everything, playing innocent while the recipient questions their own perception. Harry never sees it because by the time he turns around, Meghan has resumed her public persona. The walkabout incident reminded observers of previous moments caught on camera. The flash of anger directed at a staff member during the Windsor walkabout after the Queen's death. The cold expressions captured in carriages next to Catherine. The moments where the mask slips just long enough to reveal something unsettling beneath the surface. Former staffers confirm this is not occasional bad behavior, but a consistent pattern. The contrast between Meghan's public warmth and private treatment of those who work for her creates whiplash for anyone caught in the transition. One moment you are watching a charming celebrity engage with adoring crowds. The next you are experiencing treatment that sources describe as dehumanizing. The contrast between Meghan's approach to public life and Catherine's could not be more stark. They and how people should be treated regardless of their position. At the Queen's centenary celebration at Buckingham Palace, cameras captured a small moment that revealed everything about Catherine's character. Speaking with elderly guests, the Princess of Wales admitted softly that she finds large events quite hard because she has a soft voice. People always tell her to speak louder, but it is simply not in her nature. The vulnerability in that admission, the genuine human connection it created, demonstrated exactly what authentic royal engagement looks like. One moment in particular brought observers to tears. Royal fury as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle disgustingly hijacked the centenary celebrations of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Catherine encountered Tony Gladhill, an 88-year-old widowed former police officer who had recently lost his wife. The princess placed her hand gently on his shoulder, leaned in close to hear his words, and told him to stay in touch. It was not performative. It was not staged for cameras. It was simply one human being offering comfort to another in a moment of grief. Watch how Catherine positions herself during these interactions. Her hand on the elderly woman's shoulder was not about controlling the situation or ensuring good camera angles. It was about creating a small moment of privacy within a public event, closing off the media slightly to allow genuine connection. This instinct to serve the person in front of her rather than the cameras behind her defines Catherine's approach to royal duty. Now consider the contrast. While Catherine comforted grieving widowers and admitted her vulnerabilities with disarming honesty, Meghan was sending influencer boxes promoting 47-pound candles on the Queen's 100th birthday. The timing was not coincidental. The press packages arrived specifically to compete with centenary coverage, to insert Meghan into a news cycle that should have belonged entirely to honoring Elizabeth II. Harry contributed his own attention-seeking gesture, briefing Town and Country magazine that he had sent flowers to the Queen's grave. The word private appeared in the coverage, describing how Harry was spending the day, but nothing is private when you pick up the phone to ensure media outlets know about your supposedly private gesture. The briefing itself negated any claim to genuine sentiment. Catherine understood something fundamental about royal life that Meghan never grasped and apparently never wanted to grasp. You enter the family to serve it, not to extract from it. You learn the protocols before demanding they change. You earn trust through years of consistent behavior, not through grand gestures designed for maximum media impact. Catherine spent nearly a decade preparing for her role before marrying William. She studied how the institution functioned. She built relationships with staff and family members. She endured criticism and scrutiny without complaint. She understood that the privileges of her position came with corresponding responsibilities and constraints. Meghan arrived expecting the institution to serve her ambitions. Protocols struck her as obstacles rather than traditions worth honoring. The hierarchy that placed her below Catherine and Camilla seemed like an insult rather than a reality to accept. Every restriction felt like a personal attack rather than the normal functioning of a thousand-year-old monarchy. The religious conversion question illuminates this fundamental difference in approach. Tom Bower reports that witnesses at Meghan's baptism and confirmation into the Church of England doubted she had taken her vows seriously. The entire royal family, led by the Queen and Prince Philip, gathered at St. James's Chapel Royal to witness the 30-minute ritual. Few present believed Meghan approached it with genuine spiritual commitment. This skepticism had historical basis. Meghan reportedly converted to Judaism to marry her first husband, Trevor Engelson. Their wedding in Jamaica followed Jewish traditions. When that marriage ended with divorce papers allegedly sent via FedEx, the religious identity she had adopted seemed to disappear just as quickly. The pattern suggests religion serves as a means to an end rather than a genuine spiritual commitment. Whatever faith facilitates the desired relationship becomes the faith she adopts. Judaism for Engelson, Church of England for Harry. The institution matters only insofar as it delivers what she wants. Catherine, by contrast, prepared for royal life through years of patient learning and genuine adaptation. Her entry into the family reflected respect for its traditions and understanding of her eventual responsibilities. The difference in approach predicted everything that followed. Looking back across nearly 7 years since Harry and Meghan's departure from royal life, Catherine's quiet discernment stands vindicated against the media's loud enthusiasm. While journalists competed to publish the most fawning coverage of Meghan's revolutionary impact on the monarchy, Catherine observed and drew her own conclusions. Who proved music correct? The cost of ignoring warning signs has been enormous. A family fractured across continents, private moments weaponized for content deals, children used as props for branding initiatives and tabloid coverage, trust destroyed so thoroughly that reconciliation seems nearly impossible to envision. And through it all, a relentless stream of attacks designed to damage the institution and the people Catherine loves. Consider the contrast with Princess Mako of Japan, who actually gave up everything for love. She renounced her royal status to marry a commoner. She and her husband moved to New York, then to Connecticut. They live in a house worth approximately $680,000, not $14 million. She was recently photographed with a Target shopping bag, living the genuinely private life she claimed to want. No Netflix deals, no Oprah interviews, no branded merchandise, no wellness retreats charging thousands for 30 minutes of her presence. Princess Mako walked away from privilege and actually walked away. She did not attempt to maintain royal status while rejecting royal responsibility. She did not monetize her former position while complaining about its constraints. The comparison exposes Harry and Meghan's fundamental dishonesty. They claim to want privacy while orchestrating maximum publicity. They criticize the institution while profiting from their connection to it. They demand respect for their choices while showing contempt for everyone else's. The gap between their stated values and their actual behavior grows wider with every passing month. Catherine saw clearly what took the world years to understand. Sometimes the person who says nothing sees everything. While others were dazzled by celebrity charm and progressive rhetoric, Catherine observed the fundamentals: respect for hierarchy, willingness to serve, treatment of staff, genuine versus performed emotion. The small indicators that reveal character far more accurately than grand public statements. Her early concerns were dismissed, ignored, or attributed to jealousy. Now those same concerns read like prophecy. Every pattern she identified has manifested repeatedly and publicly. Every instinct she acted on has proven justified. Every boundary she maintained has looked increasingly wise as the years pass. The lesson embedded in Catherine's experience extends beyond royal watching. Trust your instincts when someone's behavior does not match their words. Pay attention to how people treat those with less power. Recognize that charm can mask calculation. Understand that some people view relationships primarily as opportunities for extraction. Catherine recognized something important about Meghan Markle before most of the world caught on. That recognition came at a cost, years of tension, and ultimately devastating public attacks. But it also provided protection, the ability to maintain boundaries, to limit exposure, to prepare for what eventually came. For those hoping the royal family might eventually reunite, Catherine's offers both context and caution. The trust broken through public betrayal does not rebuild easily. The patterns of behavior remain unchanged. The willingness to weaponize private information for public gain shows no sign of diminishing. Whatever reconciliation might theoretically look like, the fundamental problem Catherine identified years ago remains unresolved. She saw who Meghan was. She sees who Meghan still is. And she understands, perhaps better than anyone, why protecting her family from further damage must take priority over photo opportunities and feel-good headlines about healing rifts. Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for what comes next.